How's it going? I'm Dr. Benjamin Hardy. I am the author of the book Future Self. This is the US version of it called Be Your Future Self Now. And I just wanted to start by saying thank you so much for your interest in this book. I heard that this book has become somewhat popular in Korea, that it was on a big TV show and stuff like that. And I just want to say amazing. And Korea is actually very special to me because my dad, when he was a young man, actually served a humanitarian mission out there. He was a young missionary out there, and he lived in Korea. And also my brother-in-law lived in Korea and Busan. My father, I believe, lived in Seoul. But I just wanted to start by saying thank you so much. And in this quick video, I just wanted to share kind of the big ideas from this book that I really wanted to share. And also maybe share a story or two of people who have used this idea of future self to change their life. So the main idea, the big idea of this book is that as people, who you are in the present is based on how much connection you have with your own future self. And a lot of times people don't know who their future self is. A lot of times people haven't really thought about their future self. That's actually what a lot of the research shows, is that most people aren't very connected to their future self. And there's a lot of reasons why. There's a lot of things going on in our lives. We have a lot of challenging situations. We've got friends. We've got our lives coming at us. What the research shows is that we have a massive pull to just focus on the present. Even when it comes to short-term rewards, sometimes we'd rather just give ourselves a short-term reward, like eating, some junk food or just getting on social media and scrolling, because that gives us an immediate reward. And it can be really hard for people to really think ahead, to think to their future self, to start thinking about what their future self, who their future self is, or who their future self could be. Once you start thinking about your future self, the next step is actually to have empathy for your future self, to actually think about what would my future self want, and starting to realize that your future self is actually a different person than who you are today. Your future self, even in a year from now, is different. They have a different view of the world. They're dealing with different problems. They know things you don't know. And so realizing that your future self is a different person is the first powerful insight, that your future self is not the same as you are. And you can actually use that idea to look back on your past self. And you can think back on maybe who you were 10 years ago and think about what was your focus like? What were you thinking about? Even how did you see the world 10 years ago? Who were your friends? What were your goals? What were your habits? If I went back 10 years ago from when I'm filming this, and I'm filming this in January of 2014, 10 years ago, I was a very different person. Me and my wife had recently gotten married. We were living in her parents' basement. I actually had gotten rejected going to graduate school, and I thought that I was going to become like a counselor, like a psychology counselor, but that's not the direction I went. I actually ended up going into more of what would be called business psychology, leadership psychology, and writing books about, future self and entrepreneurship and decision-making. But also back then, there were so many things that were different. I wasn't an entrepreneur. Now I have 6 kids and we're about to adopt our 7th. There's so many things that I now know and do. Even how I deal with things like money or friends or decisions. There's so many things that are different about me now. Even the types of music I listen to, the types of vacations or ways I like to spend my time. I'm not the same as my past self. And so one of the beautiful things that I invite you to do is to take time regularly to recognize how different you are from your past self. You're not the same person you were in the past, and you're constantly changing and growing, and you get to actually shape. They call that framing. You get to frame and shape your past and your memory. That's actually what you do, and you get to actually take your past and use it in a really powerful way to recognize and appreciate how different you are from your past self and that you're not stuck. You're always growing. This doesn't mean you don't love your past self, but your past self is different. Even 90 days ago, I can look back and I can see that I'm in a different spot. And there's things that I'm now doing that my past self wasn't able to do. And there's stuff that my past self was doing that I wouldn't do now. My past self was saying yes to a lot of things. Could be opportunities. It could be ways I was spending my time or who I was spending my time with that now I would not say yes to because now I'm maybe clear on my goals or clear on my priorities or have higher standards. And so it's a beautiful thing to recognize that you're always changing. Now I'm just going to kind of wrap this up. And I really, truly hope that you read the book. Is your future self is a canvas that is yours to create. It's not a script that you learn. A lot of times people are looking for the answer. They're saying, tell me who I should be. The fact is that it's your choice. This is why Albert Einstein said imagination is more important than knowledge. Your future self isn't the same as your past self. It's not even the same as your current self. This is part of what is called having a growth mindset. Your future self can actually be something that seems impossible to you. And I have done this many times. I have accomplished the impossible. And if you look back on your own life, actually, there are things that are now normal to you that your past self would have thought were impossible, but now they are normal. And so it's just about the perspective, and your future self has a different perspective. There are things that your future self thinks are absolutely normal that right now you might not even think it's possible. You might not see how to get there. And so the point is that you don't want to limit your future self. Actually, take the freedom of recognizing your future self's different than you and that you can get connected to your future self and you can create your future self. And rather than letting your present self and your present situation dictate who your future self is, you really want to make a massive future self, and you want to let your future self dictate who you are and the choices you make in the present. And as you do that, as you get clear and connected to your future self, which is going to be very internal, very intrinsically motivating to you. Other people, they might not like the vision you have of your future self. It might make them uncomfortable. It might require you to let go of a lot of things that you're now doing. Actually, it will. But as you get connected to your future self, and as you really commit to your future self, you will be able to powerfully act with intention and boldness, hope, faith, courage in the present. And you'll be able to make very powerful decisions. You'll also be able to let go of the things that have held you back. And so it's a very powerful book. It's based on science. There's a growing body of science on this topic. Basically, what the research shows is that the more clear and connected you get to your future self, the better the decisions you will make here in the present. And you will be able to act powerfully and intentionally and be able to make moves that take commitment and courage, but they will move your life forward. You can achieve impossible goals, and you can realize your future self even every 3 or so years. Every 3 years, I live 10, 20 years worth of life. Time is not what most people think. You can take a 10-year goal, and you can find ways to achieve it in the next 1, 2, or 3 years. And you can do that over and over again, where you're squeezing so much juice, so much life into your time. It's not about the amount of years you live. It's about how much life you put into those years. And as you're connecting to your future self, and as you're doing what your future self would have you to do, you're going to make some big changes, and you're going to have to deal with that uncomfortableness for a while. That's what identity is, by the way. You want your identity to be connected to your future self. And as you act with courage towards the identity that you want to embody, eventually it will become your character. And that's really what you want to do, is you want to let your identity, which is your vision, ultimately shape the character of who you are. And you can be and become your future self, even if it seems impossible to you now. And certainly even if other people think it's impossible for you. I have done it many times, and this book, Be Your Future Self Now, will teach you and show you how. I love you. I guess the final thing I'll just say, and this is kind of the end, is just that this book has been used by hundreds of thousands of people to imagine a future self beyond anything that they ever have, and then to begin living it now. And you can do that. You can be your future self now and start doing what your future self would have you to do. And yes, for a short period of time, it will become uncomfortable, but very quickly, through your action, through your powerful action of being, then doing what your future self would do, and then you will ultimately have what your future self would have. Love you. I'm grateful for you, and I hope to come out to Korea soon and to be with you. Have an amazing day. See you, and thank you for reading Future Self.